Okay, here comes. So, welcome to part 2 of module 1 of the Family Constellation virtual training. Today, we are talking about the second order of love. And I will share now the screen to those slides coming up. Here we go. So the second order of love is who comes first? Now, what does that mean? Let me just bring you all up so I can see you all in my, yeah. So remember yesterday we talked about who belongs to a family system. Today we need to know in which order the people who belong to a family system have to be acknowledged, right? And that is all about the part 2 of module 1. So who comes first? We are talking in this next 3 hours that we are having together about the order of birth. Bert Hellinger calls it Ursprungsordnung. That's a German word. Yeah, it is more translated as Ursprung is more source than birth, like the order of the source or something like that. But I found it not so compelling in English, so I call it the order of birth. I think that's quite appropriate in the translation. We will also talk about the order in patchwork families, because this is a kind of a modern occurrence, which is quite important that we spend some time with it, because it can be very confusing in a family constellation if you have a patchwork family. And we are talking about the order in organizations as well today. Organizations, this can be anything from a workplace or a larger organization where somebody's part of, or an entrepreneurial organization, or it could be a country or a school or a club or whatever. So organization. And we are starting with talking about family constellation and phenomenology. Do you know what that means? Phenomenology? Yes, Francesca, you know that? Awesome. So I just learned last year that this is this word phenomenology is from Latin, but it is used in Germany only. Interestingly, so there is in England, not or in English-speaking countries, it's not really common to know about it. Francesca? Yeah, it's in Italy. So let's say it's in Europe, commonly used.
Greece as well. We
Yeah,
have the
here we
word.
go. Fantastic. While I know in the US it wasn't common, and in Australasia it's not common either. So that's interesting. I didn't know that before. I thought that was a standard expression, like a scientific expression. Anyhow, so we are talking about that because it it is the foundation of family constellation as Bert Hellinger has developed it, and we need to know a little bit of background as well, right? When we want to work with this method. So let's start exactly there. In the I hope I pronounce it correctly, phenomenological approach. Okay, right. So first of all, what is the definition of phenomenology? There are lots of definitions. I have just, make the shortest one that I could find on online. Shortcut everything. It's the study of things as they appear in our experience. Things meaning everything. It can be consciousness. It can be people. It can be anything. Cells. Anything. It really, things is a very broad term. So this is you are looking at things, and in our case it's a family constellation, like how the group behaves in a certain circumstance. That's the thing. And then you do that all over, and then you experience it, and you do it all over again and again and again and again. And through this repetition you find similarities. And from the similarities that you find, you form a rule. And the rule is what we are talking about here are the orders of love. Because Bert Hellinger has studied over 20 years phenomenologically the family system and found out that there are specific similarities every time he looked at it, and therefore comes the orders of love. So it's no theory, it's not academic, it's coming straight from the field. So it's communicated from the field, which is beautiful. And this is why it's also controversial, because you know, he never bothered about the scientific approach. Why would he? He wanted to heal people. He just didn't bother. Why, especially in German, as you can probably imagine, everything needs to be scientifically proved, right? Otherwise, it's kind of not existing or something. So the good thing is about the phenomenological approach, it is now coming to the attention of the scholars that it is kind of has its right place in science. No. So it's like in science, you might know that you have a theory, and then you make an experiment, and this experiment is supporting the theory. And then if you repeat this experiment in different environments, in different circumstances, and you have the same result, then this is called scientifically proven. And then, of course, you have peer review. So peers, science peers, has to be able to replicate that. And then that's it. That's scientific. It all starts with a theory. Now, in phenomenology, it doesn't start with a theory. It starts with an empty field. And that's filled out with experience. But the similarities to science it has to be repetitive, right? To form a rule, obviously. Otherwise, it would be anecdotal. It would be just a one-off. And why would we learn this, and why we cannot use it anyhow? So this is the assurance that what we learn in the orders of love has this quasi-scientific background, if I say so. Yeah. Testing the rule is then the next step when you have found similarities and you formed the rule. So what you do then, you're not only observing anymore, but you're actually using it. So in family constellation, that would mean you were actually, let's say you have found out that there is a rule that half siblings belong to a family system. Remember, first order of love. Because they come up in family constellation and they can get entangled in the family system, right? Although they have only one biological parent in the family system. Now, the next step is in phenomenology that you have to test the rule. So the next time you put up a half sibling and you test if there is an entanglement with some of the family members. And obviously this happens. And then you can approve the rule as being, you know, how can I say, as being a fixed, like a fixed rule. It is opposed to an academic approach where there's no experience necessary. Academic approach is when you're solely reading about it, like from others, and then you think, oh, 10 people who are academics are reading about the same thing. That's like philosophy, finding the same angle to things. So that's obviously truth, or that's the true, or that's true, or something like that. We are not doing that. So we are not reading a book about the orders of love and saying, okay, so that must be true. We are experiencing it for ourselves. That's very important. So we're not blindly following the orders of, not even the orders of love of Bert Hellinger. We will also experience it for ourselves and apply it, and then come to conclusion for ourselves. And this is also, remember when I said yesterday that we are kind of called to develop the next family constellation. This is how we do it phenomenologically in the tradition of Bert Hellinger. There are areas which are modern, let's put it that way. For example, having virtual family constellations that Bert Hellinger never touched, right? So in order to develop a family constellation towards the new way or the next way is to experience it. So this is why also part of the course, it is very important to have the experience of family constellations. You all have the overview of the training, and Wilma, you will get that soon, where it says exactly how many hours it is. It's 50 hours that you need to experience family constellation to just have like a basic understanding of the orders, you know, because you need to see them all over and over and over again. Otherwise, you will never be able to work with it or even understand it or even apply it in your own life. Right? It's not going through the mind. Nothing heals through information only. Right? Information need to be applied, and that's a general approach. Information applied and transforms in own experiences become knowledge. And once knowledge is present, it's not going away. You know, nobody can argue with you. Even if you say if you talk about that and somebody else says no, I don't believe that, then you think that's your problem. because you know it. You have experienced it, you know it. You know, and the other one has just the information, but not the experience. So it's you know, he can't know it. So there's no way to argue with anybody in this regards. Because what is experience is your knowledge, it is your truth, you know. And what is not experience is just information that's kind of academical. And of course you can argue about it, and people love to do that, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Nobody gets knowledge from exchanging information or arguing information. Nobody. You need to experience it. And the good thing is that family constellation is built on experience. The whole system of Bert Hellinger is built on experience. So that's what we do. That's very reassuring that that's the right way to do it. Okay, so any questions to this before we move on to the orders? Something to clarify or something that comes to your mind? I'm very happy to have, you know, this interaction and exchange if there's something, but if there's nothing, we move on, of course. Okay, cool. So the order of birth, Ursprungsordnung in German, the order of birth. We have the mother. The mother comes first. I say this now, explanations following. Then we have the father, and then we have the children. And in England, in English, this is called the nuclear family. Nuclei family or something. Or nucleus family, right?
In Spanish too.
What do you say in Spanish?
The núcleo familiar.
Nuclear, yeah.
Núcleo familiar.
Nucleo.
In Italian,
so it's probably, yeah, in Italian it's?
Nucleo familiare.
Nuclear. So it's probably nuclear in English. Okay. Doesn't matter. We all know what we're talking about. So, but there's more, of course. So obviously the children are born from mother and father. So obviously they come after in the order of birth, right? When we look at the children, we have siblings. So here's the order of birth as well important, and this comes up heaps in family constellations. The siblings are looked at in the order of their birth, or this is why birth is not the best word ever, their conception. Because not every child is actually be born, but it's still part of the family, right? As we talked about yesterday. So I might find a better term for it, the order of birth / conception. And it has been proven. Yeah, Donna?
I had a question about it. we mentioned yesterday about when two embryos are coming together and then one dies after
lost
the
twin.
So do we still need to acknowledge that one as counting? Okay, I have 3 children rather than 2.
That depends. That's a good question, Vinod. That solely
to
depends.
Acknowledge, yeah.
That will depend. That solely depends on the family constellation, what comes up. This is also something that we have to look at and experience, and we cannot answer theoretically, right? So in my experience, and as far as I know in births, Hellinger's experience, from the day the embryo's heart starts to beat, it is kind of counting, which is week 5 or 6 after conception, right? This is also, I had this question in another course, and I was thinking about it. You know, when you talk about IVF is where you have egg and sperm from the from the same partner, from a couple, and it's artificially inseminated because they have problems to naturally conceive, which is very common these days. It's very common. Lots of couples do that. Doesn't mean that it always results in a child, but it's, you know, a couple of steps that are risky are kind of cut out. These eggs are frozen, so the fertilized eggs are frozen, and then whenever the couple decides to put them in the wound of the mother, they take, you know, the doctor takes out one frozen egg, which is fertilized by the semen of the partner, and it's put in the womb of the mother, and then they see if it results in pregnancy or not. Yeah. And then the question came up: are these eggs counting towards the family system? Yeah. Well, I hadn't had the answer for that by that time, but I was thinking about it. Would be interested to see in a family constellation, but I am 99% sure that they are not. Because, and who has done module 4 already? Virna, right? Gabriel. So remember when we talked about the heart and what the heart does? Yeah, on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level, then you know what importance it has for the heart to beat. And so I came to the conclusion that before the heartbeat starts, there is no, the eggs don't count as family members. Yes, Virna.
But can I say, I don't know anything scientifically, but let's say, okay, the egg is frozen, but once is the magical chemical compounding together, putting that into the womb of the mother. When I've seen it in a video, and this is why I comment about it. When it comes kind of into magical, that all the chemical and the bacteria and whatever we are made of comes all together, forming that heart.
Yeah, it does, but the heart is not, sorry, I just want to move you along. The heart is not formed yet, right?
Will be done later after a few
5
days,
year in week 5 to 6. So we are not doing biology course here, of course.
No, of course not.
But cells in itself, so egg is a cell and then the sperm is a cell, they come together and they start to divide and become a cluster of cells. Yeah, and at a certain point, 2 tubes start to form. That's the first visible, like tiny. I don't think you can actually see that when you go to an ultrasound. This is why you don't know whether you're pregnant or not before, I don't know, 6, 8 or 9 weeks or 10 or whatnot. They come together. These 2 tubes form. That's the first thing you actually, like matter, you can see, and they form the heart. That's the first thing that forms. And but let's stop here because we all go to module 4, where actually I have a whole talk on the heart, which is super interesting. So if you think about the egg and the sperm and IVF and artificial insemination, I would form it like cautiously a rule to work with is that they count after the heart started to beat. So when you have a lost twin and the twin dies after the heart started to beat, that is also traumatic for the other twin because they can hear and feel the heartbeat. Before that, I don't think how the other twin can actually feel that there's another cluster of cells. I don't think there's any way to tell that. I just can't, fathom that, how that would look. So the heartbeat for me would be the magical draw line, right? Okay, so siblings, the born and the unborn ones, the ones who belong to a family system, have a certain order. And the order is very strict, and it's the order of birth. So or conception. Let's say conception in this case. So whoever was conceived first comes first. And it doesn't matter what destiny this child takes. If it's a lost twin, if it's miscarriage, if it's aborted, if it's been born premature and dies, or if it's born premature and survives, if it's a normal birth, if it's a late birth, if it's a stillborn, or if it dies later as a baby. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So the order is set. So they belong to the family system, as we know, and when they belong to the family system, they have a specific place. Everyone who belongs to a family system has a specific place, and that's the second order of love, and that's what we talk about today. Who has where the right place? Because why is this important? Because if they don't take their right place, there is an imbalance in the family. And one of the family members will suffer for that. And it is most likely not the person who has not the right place. It could be. But more often it's an entanglement. So somebody else takes it over. And this is why we need to know where the right order is, who comes first. And when we look in the family constellation, working towards, with the modalities we learn, to establish this order, right? We have this specific or this interesting constellation with adoption when we talk about order of birth and children. Remember everything we talked about yesterday about adoption. We are looking at the family here, who are the physical parents, not the adoption parents. And because if you have a family, mother and father, who gives a child away and then have other children and they never talk about it, right? Then there is an imbalance because this child belongs to the family system who has been adopted or given away in this case and been adopted by somebody else. And this is where it causes an imbalance in the family system of the child that has been adopted. And this is why we need to look at it. Missing children, it's another point. They often are not talked about, but they definitely belong to the order, to the family system by the order of, by the second order of love, in the rank of their conception, or in this case of their birth, because they obviously have been given birth, right? Okay, then we covered the children. Now we go to the grandparents. The grandparents come before, obviously, mother and father, because they were first. I just put them last because we are normally starting with a nuclei family when we do a family constellation. So we normally don't put grandparents up first. Yeah, that's the only reason why they come now. But in the order of birth, they come first. Obviously, they have been given birth to either the mother or the father. And then we have the ancestors. We have, of course, the great-grandparents as well, but we put them together with the ancestors for the sake of this module, of this part, to shortcut it, because there's nothing different with the great-grandparents and the ancestors. They are kind of belonging in the same group. The ancestors obviously have been even before the grandparents there. And there's a specific order how we look at ancestors, which we will talk about that in a due course. Okay, so now let's start with the mother. Why start with the mother? Because the mother is the one that is the closest to us. Because she has carried us in her womb. And she might even, after giving birth to us, nourished us. Not every mother does this. We have this issues with adoption and things, but most of the mothers are able to nourish their own child. And this is why they're so close to us. So now it's the time that we talk about our mothers. And I would like you to introduce your mother to everybody. And I will do the same, of course. In a family constellation, and you might know that because you have all been to family constellations, the mother always comes up, right? So many times. And that is true, and that is good, and that is fine. And there were, I think, Gabriel, we've been in one together where there was a huge workshop with Bert and Sophie Hellinger. I think it was in Austria, actually. Was it in Vienna or somewhere? I don't know. And there were like 200 people or something like that, a huge room. And because there were so many obviously not everybody gets a constellation, there are probably 10 or 20 people getting to constellate. And then the first constellation was all mothers, mother. So they decided to actually get everybody up, 200 people, choose a partner, and do a mother exercise with each other in the workshop. So everybody can actually constellate a mini constellation, the mother, because there was a need for that. Yeah, and it is indeed, it is a need for that. And it's not done with one constellation normally. You work through your mother relationships are very complicated, often, most of the time. So we are starting in this course today with introducing our mother, and I'm happy to start. This is my mother. Hang on. My mother, Ingeborg. She passed away probably 9 or 10 years now. Yeah? I have the same glasses. I just realized, isn't that funny? I didn't realize that. So my relationship to my mother was not easy. We were not very alike. In fact, we were very different. To an extent that she once, in her anger, said, "You cannot be my daughter." But she should know, really. But that's okay. It doesn't need to. She was always there for me, and I had the great fortune to work through my mother relationship, obviously, in my family constellation journey a lot, and to realize that she was never growing up. She was a child. She was felt abandoned by her father, which never came back from the war, from the Second World War. And she suffered all her life about it. She had an uninterrupted movement. We will talk about that later. To her father, and that led her stuck in her child energy. So she was a child, right? So what that means, we will talk about the relationships then later, is that yeah, it was normal, inevitably, that we couldn't have a very good relationship, but energetically that doesn't matter. That has all been cleared, and yeah, so that's my mother, and I honor her very much, and have great understanding for everything that went on in her life. So Gabriel, do you want to introduce your mother? You have to unmute yourself. Yes.
So my parents are still alive, and they celebrated their 50th wedding last year. So I find my mother looks quite young. She's 71 now, and they're still married, and my mother has had a very hard childhood, and me too. We had a lot of problems, and that's why I started all with this family constellation quite early. I think I had my first one when I was 28. I'm now 51, and there was quite a lot of things between us because she had a very hard childhood, and there was not a lot of love in our family system because she was very busy with herself, so with her life, and we were always judged because she was not happy. So I was, when something went wrong, it was always the children who were what do you say, wrong. She was unhappy, and then she blamed us. So this was quite hard. So I started, and I think I was depressed when I was a teenager. I think that when I look back, I think it was like a kind of depression what I when I was a teenager. But now it's okay. I don't have any bad feelings. But it's not a hard relationship.
Hard connection.
Yeah, because she was just very unhappy, and there was so many things what she didn't like her life, so it was not easy for her, I think, then. So that's it. And but no bad feelings anymore, or no judgment, nothing.
How often have you constellated your mother, Gabriel?
How often?
About just.
I think 5-6 times. I mean, you do always this. We did a lot of this when you go to the when I went to the workshops. I did also this. You made this small, as you said, the small. How do you say, the small constellations, that die Hinbewegung to
the movement towards the mother.
I think I did this probably 10 times or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't count it. So.
Did you find that from the first to the last one there was a difference?
Yeah, I don't remember because it's such a long time that I did it. I think it's certainly 10 years, 12 years that I did the last movement towards the mother. So I don't remember. I saw her 2 weeks ago, and when I saw her, there was like it is, and there was no bad feelings. I really felt that the past is over. So when I saw her, there was nothing like there was nothing. It was just no bad feelings, even no thinking about. So this was very good for me.
That's freedom.
Yeah, I saw her, and she was there, and everything was okay.
Yeah.
And I was very happy as well, because when I saw 20 years ago, there was always any feeling when I saw her. I mean, like always going to the back to the past.
Yeah.
Or like always this kind of feeling like a child who is sad, or why was it like this, or why, you know what I mean? So there was there was always any feeling. I mean, like which feeling it was, but there was no feeling 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
No emotion.
There was no childhood emotion.
Very good. So that has definitely cleared.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Gabriel. Wilma, would you like to introduce your mother to us?
Нет. Okay, so okay, I have a picture here that we are together, but she's wearing glasses actually. So let me show you another one that I found. It's with my daughter.
Ah, yeah, very nice. Now, yes.
Yes.
Lovely.
My mother is a very powerful woman, very strong woman. She wasn't like that when she was married to my father. She had to be that perfect perfection, no? Like the perfect mother, the perfect wife. And she was suffering inside because my father was always with other women. And but everything had to appear perfect. But after a certain age, after she divorced, she got really empowered and she started saying things how they are. We were always very close together, but she's very judgmental, like extremely demanding. Like I remember from psychology, I was coming back home and I'm like, oh, I took 98% in that exam and I'm so happy. And she's like, oh, why not 100%? Like,
Yeah.
and very judgmental in many things. Like when I was crying, she was getting angry and mad that I was just crying. And it was really hard. And when I did psychotherapy, I had to do psychotherapy 2 years when I was studying psychology. And with all that therapeutic process, I got empowered and I accepted how she is, and everything was easier. Like now, when she tells me things like that, I tell her, Mom, you're such a bitch. And we laugh at each other. And I can tell her exactly what I think. I'm not scared anymore. I tell her exactly what I think of her when she's too hard. And I feel so free that I can tell her anything. And we're very good together. Like we laugh about it, about our differences. And I told her, you're like a very big fountain, with these waters that they go so fast. And I'm like a river, a small river of water, and we're different. But difference is good. So
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your journey, Wilma, with your mother. Hello, Chica. Do you have a photo of your mother handy? Just get one quickly if you don't have it. We are continuing with Francesca. Please introduce your mother to us. Can you unmute yourself?
I could try to share my screen if you want to see the picture.
Yeah. Try to share. Or can you put it in the chat, the picture?
I'll see. I don't know. Wait a second. Here.
Should be possible.
Okay.
Just there's an icon file, and if you press that, you can download it to the chat.
Yep. Eccola.
Ah, I can see it.
I need to look at her too. Wait a second.
Yeah.
So this is a picture of my mom when she was, I don't know, maybe 45, something like that.
Ah, yeah.
And because I think I was born, yeah, definitely. No, then she was a little younger, I think. She had me when she was 28, so she was probably 35 or 40. And so as a child, I did enjoy, I think I did enjoy her body, the way she would hug me and stuff like that. But we really didn't understand each other on a intellectual level. I'd be so much closer to my father. And also she had an abortion before having me. And for some reason, I mean, I didn't know it when I was a child, of course, but I do know now that and then she told me that she had cried all of my pregnancy. So I've always had this rejection feeling of being a cause for her pain. Finally, she got ill. She got multiple sclerosis when I was 12. And that was like, she wasn't there anymore. She should be like a child. She started right away. She died 25 years later, but she wrote her will like an year before, after she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So she considered herself done, and that she wouldn't fight to be healed and to get better was horrible for me. Like, that was like the worst thing she could do, because I really felt like I wasn't important. Now she died in 2016, and that was a relief. So her body had completely finished. She couldn't speak, talk, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing, Francesca.
Thank you.
Virna, your turn. Press the mic. We can't hear you. You're still muted.
Sorry,
Yes.
I was saying that,
Okay, now you go.
that the photos were so little and I couldn't see anything else, but now it is. Here is my mother. You
Wonderful.
see?
Yes.
And
Yeah, you can clearly see that.
I was very rebelled as a child. I didn't like to be bossed around, maybe. And my mother had a very sad childhood, like Gabriel was describing, a very hard childhood for her, that she was not living with her mother. Her mother left her living with the grandmother and with the father's mother, and sometimes with the mother's mother. And she didn't like the way she was treated, her and her siblings. They were very poor. They were children needing everything, food, care, everything. And apparently my grandma was going away to work to send money. My mother always talk about how those people, uncles and cousins and the grandmas treated them, and how it was especially with her. You know, it was no voice expression, you know, for her. And for our upbringing, it was always these stories coming up, you know, when I was a child, da, 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 and you do as you're told, you do as I say, and I think I work my hardest against that. As an adult, we had a really good relationship when I left Venezuela, and that was 15 years ago. Always communicating, very open, consulting with her most of my things, and any opinion and anything, but everything kind of went down the hill when I decided to divorce my ex-husband. And there was an unfaithful relationship, and she was like, oh, you should stay, you should, what are you gonna do, you know? So I thought, this is kind of old-fashioned mentality. And I said to her, you haven't been there. You're not in my shoes. This is my situation, and I'm gonna do this. She even supported me, but and she was a kind of, you know, like a pillar, always do this is the best, just you know, have be humble, do this, do that, you know. But I did as I wanted, so whatever she wanted to say, but I did what I wanted, because I wanted to have the power to move on. A couple of years ago, we started like having a really bad relationship. I felt that she was having too much to say in my things, and I was Catholic. I decided I want to do what I feel that I should believe in, not what I've been taught that I should believe on. And and she didn't like it. I even felt heartbroken, but that changed the relationship between us. She felt probably that was a hard thing, that I didn't want to talk to her much, but whatever she was talking about any other experience, about the past, about the neighbor, about whatever, but not about us and about how she was feeling, or questioning me, tell me, no addressing the situation. So it was ambiguous. Until now, we have done some constellation late last year. I think I've done 3 so far. And I feel and see that the relationship is changing bit by bit. And now I can call her, which I didn't feel like calling her. I feel that I made those changes because my children are my mirror with my relationship with my mother.
Oh.
And I couldn't run away. I need to deal with it.
Very
because yes, because it's like, I wanted to put a curtain, you're behind, mother. But my children behave and give me back like I'm behaving like they are. And then I feel how that treatment goes. And then, okay, I guess this is a sample of how she's feeling and how I've been treating her. So I started making changes.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Runa. Thank you. Chica, do you have a photo of your mother?
By the time I checked your email, I was already out.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm currently sitting in the house, which
Yeah.
means everything is packed away.
None of your phone? Not one photo?
No, I recently cleaned up all my photos, downloaded somewhere.
Yeah.
I was looking. Sorry, I don't have
Fine.
photo.
No, that's okay. Would you like to introduce your mother anyhow without a photo?
Yeah. So my mother is born to the family whose grandpa was the mayor. He was very honored mayor, so she has a lot of discipline, and also I guess proud. So she married into business family, which is my dad. We have 5 restaurants.
Can I ask
And
a question? Where are you from?
I'm from Japan.
Okay, thanks.
I'm from Japan. So we had very unique relationship where I was sent to my grandparents and great grandparents' home when I was 1 month old, and came back, and then I had no care of the parents till maybe maybe I was like more teenager. That's when I get to know my mother first time, because the time I've only seen her is maybe half an hour in the morning before I go to school, and when I came back from school. I've never seen her any other time. So I really didn't know who she was, or she didn't know who I was either. We're still finding, but the great thing is I'm separating at the moment, and this time she just realized, oh my god, I never did anything for Chica.
Yeah.
So she's finally retiring, decided to retire her work, which is unbelievable, and she's learning how to cook. So one day she want to come visit us and help me for the first time. And this is awesome. I think it's the healing is happening, and everything
That's
how it should
wonderful.
be.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Chica.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so now that we all know a little bit about our mother, we know also a little bit about ourselves and the others in the group, which is lovely. So there's a saying from Bert Hellinger: success has mother space. And there's a lot behind this very simple statement. A lot. Because if there's resentments for or against our mothers, success is not possible. Right? So when you have, when you're struggling, not in every means, but when you're struggling in some areas, or you're working with somebody who's struggling in some areas to have success, it is guaranteed that the mother comes up in a family constellation. This is why Bert Hellinger said, in very short, so you can memorize that, success has mother's space. Right? And this is this super important work with the mother and being able to clear all resentments with mother, to have success in your own life and feel the freedom, which can take a lifetime or 10 constellations, who knows, but it is possible for everyone. So bear in the back of your mind, success as mother space, if it comes up. Yes, Virna, you had a question?
No, I wanted to share that that was what came up when I look up business, when I look up myself, you know, the relationship with the self, everything, the mother comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that is something that needs to be fixed by my mother's relationship with her mother, which is no good. My mother doesn't like to talk to her mother.
Yeah.
And my great grandmother with her daughter, which is my grandmother, she passed away, but they didn't have that relationship good either. So
that's true, Virna. Thank you for sharing that, because that's what we will talk about. That if there are resentments, yes, Vilma.
Maya, Entschuldigung, which are the phrase that you said that is so important, because I didn't hear it good.
Is it not? Can you not see it again? This is not shared on the slide.
No, I don't see.
No,
I see Zoom.
Success has mother's face.
It does say. Okay. So it is on the slide. Success has mother's face, Vilma. I wonder why. Who cannot see that on the computer?
Maybe.
You can see that, Francesca? Gabriel?
So
you can see that?
So you have to check on the gallery, probably. You have to check on the gallery to
Do you have gallery view, Vilma?
Corner in the high, on the right, in high.
On the right hand side, there's a small points, and then you can change there.
Yes, perfect. I lost it, but yeah, no, thank you.
But okay.
Perfect. Yes.
You got it?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thanks. So yeah. So this is a very important information, and in this phrase, it is really clearly, memorizable. Success is mother's face. So whenever we are looking at success, we see our mother. That's what we do. Because, and why is that? That is a very simple dynamic there, because the nourishment in life itself and everything we need to survive comes from the mother, obviously. Right? And even if the mother doesn't act as we want it to, if we had other expectations, a difficult relationship, she wasn't there, whatever, the sheer fact that you are all beautiful beings alive today, she done her job. That's all she needs to do. She doesn't need to make your bed of roses. That's not a mother's job. Mother's job is to give birth to you, to give your soul the opportunity to come into this world and experience whatever you need to experience, work on your karma or whatever it is that you come here to do. And your mother, of course your father too, but first and foremost your mother is enabling that. And the simple fact is that is also controversial when Bert Hellinger said that first, but it's absolutely true in the orders of love, is that that's all the mother needs to do. Yeah. The mother doesn't need to be there at certain times, or as Chica shared, not at all. But she made sure that she survived, made sure that others are looking after her. This is all she needs to do. Everything else is in our expectations. Like we would expect our mothers to do something more for us. But it's not her job. So we just need to be clear about that. So if we cannot forgive ourselves for these expectations towards our mother, we will struggle being successful in our endeavors. Okay. And obviously, all this applies also when you work with others. So the bond between mother and child is very strong. The strongest bond you can ever have, because they share the body, they share the blood circulation, the blood system. No, they shared the womb of the mother. The strongest bond you can ever have. And this is also why we are struggling with our mother, a relationship with our expectations, because it becomes actually painful because of the bond. The bond between child and mother is so strong that when the child has expectations towards the mother, or for that matter, the mother towards the child, right, as Wilma was sharing, then it becomes painful because we cannot just say bye, leave me alone.
Can you just tell me the words? You said exactly what the mother has the duty to do, because I tend to transform it in my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I repeat it so it can settle in.
Yeah.
The mother has to provide a life. That's all. It's a sheer matter of giving the soul a body and securing the life of the child. That's the mother's role. Yeah. The mother's role is nothing beyond. Everything else that happens beyond is, of course, optional. It can, of course, and does most often. That's normally not what all that the child gets from the mother, but that would be the minimum the mother is providing. And the sheer fact that you are all alive, beautiful, made your way in some, way, shape, or form, this is proof that the mother did everything right, even if we don't see it.
So it's correct. It would be correct to say that the mother is supposed to provide life and make sure that the child is protected and can grow. Is that it?
Nourished, I would say. Okay. Nourished. Because protection, we are protection from not being nourished, if you will. Let's put it that way, nourished.
Yeah. Thanks.
Because we talked about that last time, adversities are by design. Yeah? This life is not about avoiding adversities, avoiding pain. This is not the life. We all came here because it provides us these challenges to grow. That's why we can't live without that adversities. That is a chance for us to grow. And that this is why the mother's job is not to protect us from adversities at all. It would probably take something away that you have designed for your soul journey, even. And as more difficult the relationship is to the mother, yeah, Gabriel.
But I think, but when a mother gives, I mean, when a mother is happy, then and she can give more love to her child, I think then the child has it easier, no, during her life, no? I had always
yes, easier, but
struggle more, not because I had these expectations, but it was, I think it's easier when your mother cares for you, no?
But who wants an easy life? What's good with an easy life?
It was a lot of money I had to spend for my soul health.
Yeah, fantastic.
I could build a small house for this.
That's very much in the mind, but I'm pretty sure.
So this was, it's a lot of money you spend. It's a lot of money you have to spend for your soul
Yeah.
soul health then.
It's probably
If you-
exactly what the money wants to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten the money. So otherwise, you would have no money because you couldn't spend it on your soul journey. Now you are successful. Spend money. You have money.
I had success to spend for my mother's Hinbewegung towards my mother. I
Yeah.
had to spend all
Yeah.
this money.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all connected. Everything belongs somehow together. So now I lost my thread of thought. What did I just say before that?
What the mother's was to nourish us.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. So that's the point. Because of the strong bond between mother and child, and then the adversities we experience in our relationship to the mother, this makes it actually so pressing, right? Because we cannot just say goodbye, leave me alone, like we would to a distant cousin, and don't bother. It is on a deep level, as Gabriel said, we spend so much money to clear this because it is so strong through the bond to the mother. So be prepared for your own journey. The mother has a lot to say in it, on an energetic level, not in real life, and also when you work with others. Yes, Chika.
Does it, if the child is adopted, is that the bond is still strong, or we need to look
it's
up?
always to the birth mother. Yeah. The bond is
The
to the
birth
birth mother. Yeah, we are only talking about the birth mother.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Adoption has other problems, obviously, which we will all go through hopefully today or tomorrow. So we will cover that. It's a special case. Yeah. So we talked about the expectations. So that's covered. The expectations coming either from the child to the mother to the child, right? And they are in the way. They're in the way to let the love flow, which is pure energy, nourishing the child, providing for the survival of the child. Expectations are in the way from both sides. Now, of course, because we do family constellation, we are always aware that only the relationship between the child and the mother is not what we are looking at. We're also looking at the relationship of the mother to their mother, and to their mother, and to their mother, because we will see repetition here. And that is most often the case. Because the expectations and the distorted relationship between child and mother normally doesn't start here, but it's an entanglement from further generations down the line. So bear that in mind, that we are working with that always. We always make sure we covered the healing process to the source, where it started. Otherwise, we would be similar to doctors, only potting around with symptoms, with pills and this and that. We want to go to the healing, to the source of the problem, where it started. Okay, so there are some specific, some issues between mothers and daughters and mothers and sons. So it's kind of, everybody knows that anyhow. Mothers and daughters are quite different, more prone to be difficult than mothers and sons. Did you experience that in your own life? Yeah, I did too. Doesn't need to be, but it's more than 50%, I would say. That's so. Why would that be? Well, we don't need to write a essay about it or look at it, theoretically. It's just as it is. And we have to take more care in the family constellation about the mother relationship if a woman is constellating than when a man is constellating, being the son, right? There's often less expectations there that are in the way from both sides, probably because they are not the same sex. I don't know. Obviously, mother and son is the other way. That doesn't mean that there's not an interrupted movement towards the mother, from a son to the mother. That happens. And expectations to the mother and not good relationships. That all happens. No? So you have to be aware if you're, we are all women here on this, that's lovely. If you work with somebody who is the son of a mother, that of course mother issues can come up. Definitely happen. Right, what else? The letting go process. Now, the letting go process from the mother starts with birth. The birth, giving birth, where birth energies are present, strong energies. Let me just see. Have you all given birth? Everybody here? No, not everybody. Who has given birth? And who has not given birth? Yeah, okay. So what's happening in the body is completely out of the control of the mother and the baby. It's instinctual. It's instinct energies that are coming through. And if you would ever have felt these pain of the what's the English term for veer, of the labor, what's the term? When you're in labor, the waves, the waves.
Contractions.
Yeah, thank you. The contraction. So if you have ever experienced these contractions, and for Gabrielle and Francesca, we can only try to make that more visual.
I was told that very, very painful period, which I had, like painful period, was pretty similar to that.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I cannot fathom your period pain then, because the contractions are absolutely unthinkable.
Yes, slightly different because the baby is finding the way. The pain will be kind of localized in any area, but the delivery of the baby will be taking out the legs, the hips, that container of where
Amazing. But yeah, my period would be almost to go to the hospital. I would faint and really have to lay down. So I think doctors told me not.
Oh yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah. So this is a letting go process. If it wouldn't be so painful, we wouldn't want to let the child go. It would be forever, we would like to hold on to it. So it's by design of nature that it becomes unbearable, absolutely unbearable. We want nothing else than get that out, right? We definitely don't want to hold on to the baby when we are in labor and when we have these contractions. Same with the baby. The baby is so big in the wound, it has no space. And then it has also this instinctive energies to get out there. It's like a claustrophobic thing. It has to go out there. It doesn't want to. It doesn't want to lose it. It thinks it dies. It does not only the womb and the warmth and this, this dimmed lights and everything. So that's home. And then all of a sudden you've been pressed out, and the walls, imagine in your room, the walls come towards you and touching you even, and something is pressing you out somewhere into the light, which you have never seen before, into the coldness. So you can see how drastic that is. It has to be, because otherwise the bond is so strong between child and mother, they would never let go, and both would die. So that's by design. So this letting go process is starting with the birth, and it is continuing from there, right? And it is a slow process because, of course, there is a strong bond, and the bond will go slow and slow. And when you have had teenagers growing up, so you have like phases when the children grow up, and there are always phases where you think, oh my gosh, I hope this is over one day. This is another letting go process, because from the lovely innocent child that you are nourishing, some and its own personality develops that's probably not always agreeing with you and you with this personality. So this letting go process is important. And why am I saying that? Is in family constellation, that's actually what happens. yeah, that you are finishing off the letting go process with your mother. And most people die and have never finished off the letting go process with their mother. But not us, and not the people who come to us. We have understood that there is no development for our own spiritual growth without letting go of the mother. And we are working on that with a beautiful methodology of family constellation. And if we got a chance today, we definitely do that. So some of you know this translation, interrupted movement towards the mother, which is in German, unterbrochene Hinbewegung zur Mutter. We will talk about that in module 4, so I won't do that here because I see you all of you in module 4, or we have had that already, the Gabriel and Virna. So we are going sometimes in family constellation. We are actually quite often. We are having this specific dynamic where this movement is playing up. So when we say letting go, this is a movement away from the mother to become independent from mother, and the mother independent from child. But there's also another movement towards the mother, because for the nourishment, right? So when the baby is born into the world, the first movement the baby has, and when I was studying all the literature when I was pregnant and wanted to have a natural birth and how to deal with the baby, I realized that you have to let the baby find the breast to suck the colostrum, not the colostrum, is that the colostrum? The first milk, yeah. And they have to physically, you know, you have to lay the baby on the belly, and then it has to have a few kind of movements like stretching towards it. That's important, obviously, or apparently, for the baby and for the mother. So this is already the movement that the baby has naturally, and it will not stop until it is, say, 4 years old. When a personality develops and the child can express its desires and demands and feelings, right? Often this is interrupted, this movement towards the mother. And why and when and what we do with it, that we will all talk about in module 4. So now the question is, what is mother's love? What is children's love in this relationship? And obviously, like we do in family constellation, we are not thinking about it. We want to experience it. So we're going to have, before we have a break, an exercise with that. Yeah? So please finish your taking notes or what you're doing at the moment, and put everything down, your notebook, your pen, and find a space where you can sit upright with your spine unsupported. And then we take some breaths together. This is a guided meditation, this exercise. So sit upright, relax the shoulders down, the jaw. You can close your eyes and start to breathe deeply into your belly. The belly comes out on your inhale, and you draw in the belly on your exhale. And the breath goes through the nostrils, deep, deep down into the core of your body. And you exhale it out through the nostril in a long, controlled exhale. And with a couple of more breaths, and with every inhale, you descend down into the center of your being, where you feel at peace, where there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no thoughts, no emotions, only beingness. Nothing needs to change here. Everything is at the right time in the right spot. And you feel very relaxed, open, strong, happy, And in this place, you meet your mother. She can have every age, whatever comes first, take that. However you see her, don't try to change it. She comes there towards you, and then she stops. And she stands there, looking at you. And you look at her. You look in her eyes. And if she's a small person, then you make yourself smaller, so you have to look up to look in her eye. Continue breathing. Just look in her eyes as if you see her for the first time. There are no memories. There are no expectations. Nothing that you want, nothing that she wants. She might even have the age of a child. And you might even are in the age of a child. Just continue to look in each other's eyes. The eyes, the windows to the soul. And it reminds yourself of your soul contract with your mother. That you have agreed upon in another realm, in another time. We have agreed upon that this life you will be born into is exactly that, where you want to go. And your mother has agreed to conceive you and to birth you in exactly that circumstances that you desire, out of deep love. And then from the bottom of your heart to say to your mother, please, just this little word, please, with no expectation. And you hear your mother say to you, yes, just this little word. Also without any expectation. And then you put the left hand to your heart and reach out with the right palm of your hand. And your mother takes your left hand to her heart and reaches out with the right hand towards you. And your palms are touching. And you feel the energy flowing from heart to heart. through the palms of your hands, through the arms. And you feel how your heartbeat is synchronizing. If you would beat as one. You feel the warmth in your palm, pulsing of the blood, almost as if the blood flow would go through the palms and you would share the same bloodstream. And then you take your right hand towards your heart, on top of the left. And your mother's doing the same. And then you take a step back from your mother, and she takes a step back from you. And you say to your mother, thank you. And you take another step. You say again, thank you. Then you take 3 steps back. And your mother is very small, but she's still there. You say again, thank you. And then you turn around. And with this feeling of completeness, you come slowly back into your room in your own time, realizing how you sit on the chair, on the sofa, the heaviness of your legs. And whenever you're ready, you slowly open your eyes. Shake a little bit the shoulders, head. Take a deep inhale and an open mouth exhale. Very good. Okay, let's everybody unmute before we do a short break. Let's just check in with everybody. Anybody wants to share what was experienced in this exercise? Just if it comes to you naturally. Yes, Chica. Go ahead.
It was amazing because I didn't see her in this lifetime. We shared a lifetime before. That's what
Oh
I saw.
wow.
That
Yes.
was profound.
Wow.
great.
How did you
You were-
how did you figure out that it was another lifetime? Like
Because I couldn't see. It was so uncomfortable when I was trying to see her in this lifetime.
yeah.
And I was asking her what's wrong.
Yeah.
So she just took me to the
Ah.
another lifetime we shared together as
Oh.
sisters.
As
And that was
sisters.
awesome.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Very good.
we were
Thank you for sharing, Chica.
That
Wonderful.
makes sense. That makes more sense.
Yes. Anybody else want to share? Yes, Francesca.
I saw her, because after she died, I did some, what's the name? MR, that psychological technique that you use the position of your eyes.
Maybe Vilna knows that. Or is it eye? Is this eye movement or what is this?
Yeah, this
Rapid
is
Yeah.
eye movement RDMR,
REM, the REM, REM.
rapid
No.
eye movement something,
Okay.
and rapid eye movement, don't know. Anyway, I did that exercise. Psychologist who's a friend of mine, and when he said visualize your mother, I saw her the way I saw her in that exercise, and she was riding a horse, long hair, beautiful eyes, the eyes she had, but beautiful and brilliant because she was healthy in my vision.
Yeah.
And wearing a super beautiful shirt that I used for many years, being thriving. So it felt good.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
I saw my mother in the patio of the house, and there is a way she always liked to look, kind of closely, and that's how she came over, and it was like having her arms on my shoulder and looking at me. And when I said, "Mommy, please," she was, "Yes, Virna," and so I repeated that several times, but it was nice. It felt very nice.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, so we have just passed half. So let's take 10 minutes from here. 33, say 34, we meet again. Stretch your legs, take a sip of water, bite if you're hungry, or fresh air, or whatever you feel like it. Please turn off your video and your mic, and then be on time, back for the second half. Yeah? Yes, Vilma?
Maya, since I opened the picture, something got disfigured with so I can see the slides or all of you, but not both at the same time like before. So is it okay if I go out of the meeting and come back inside?
Absolutely.
I think that way it will be good again.
Absolutely. Of course, please do that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
See you in a bit.
Bye.
After the mother, of course, next one in line is the father. So let's look at the father. Yes, now it's time to introduce the father. I'm happy to start. I have the picture here. My father. That's my father. His name was Johann, but everybody knows him as Hans. And my son also has a first name Hans now. Yes. Actually, he has also the same glasses almost. That's so funny. And the cheeks, yeah. Thank you, Werner. I don't have the mustache though, right? Oh, thank goodness. So he was born 1926. He was 3 years younger than my mother, and he was one of the last children who has been drawn into the Second World War in 1945 when he was 26. He was 19. And he ended up 7 years in captivity in Russia. And he was forced to work in the mines, in the coal mines. And when he came back, he decided to start coal mining and engineering in Germany because that's what he now already had experienced. So he transformed this experience into something really good in his life. And then, he studied more and he became, he provided for the family. And I had a good relationship with my father. I felt closer to him, much closer than to my mother. He was quite spiritually, but not in the open. But I sometimes saw him reflecting, like a meditation, in a meditation. And I didn't know what it was, but now I know that he was, spiritual, if you will. in a way. Yeah, and his destiny was to look after my mother. That was completely clear, and he donated his whole life to do that until the last breath. And he got Alzheimer, but he still put up with it somehow and looked after my mother until she passed away. And then a year later, he passed away. So that was the relationship, and that was what they wanted. That was completely clear. I never doubted that. Yeah. And something very funny to share. What I'm just wearing is a shirt from my dad from the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. The only thing, thing that I really have from my father, and funnily, I pulled that out to wear it. I haven't done it in years. Yesterday, I thought yeah. So that's the field. That's how the field works. It's just beautiful. No question asked. Okay, Gabriel, would you like to introduce us to your father?
So my
yeah.
father is 10 years older than my mother. So my father is he's 8 years older than my mother. He's still alive, and he was he's a baker actually, and my parents, they had their own business and they worked a lot during their whole life. And my father was also a musician, and he was very interested in culture, and I was always closer to my father than to my mother. And at my first constellation, I was like the mother. My father always treated me like the wife of like his wife, because he could always speak with me, and he was heißt missbraucht, no,
Abuse?
abused like his woman, because I was from the beginning on, I was very, like, how do you say, adult. I was
You was in the position of an adult?
Yes, and that's what, and this was the first constellations I had. So it was like I'm the child, and I'm not the adult in the in the relationship of my
Okay,
parents.
so I think I understand. Can I just quickly explain that? So that was a typical dynamic you see, which is great to share it in real life. A very typical dynamic that you see, that a child takes over the position of an adult, and that comes out in a family constellation.
Yeah, and in the
Talking about the orders, the orders.
I had to step back because he took me in the position that I was like the mother. I mean his wife, and then there was a few constellations about this. Was not done with one, because I always felt like I'm between them. And later on, I had always, like, I was also when in my working life, I had always this position that I was always between the employees and the boss. So I was always in this sandwich position. What I realized, and there was a lot of course, I was very reflected then in kind of job, and then I find out it's really all about family constellation, that you behave when you were between your parents, then you are between, then you get the job where, so this was very interesting. So,
very good. Very good.
and
Thank
they're
you.
both still alive.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for sharing.
You're
Wonderful. Francesca, would you like to introduce us to your dad?
Yes, for once I'm unmuted it already.
So we're looking in the chat now.
Yeah, one. Should be this one.
Yeah,
The picture
coming
on.
through. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks to the technology.
Yeah. So this is my dad. This is
Ah,
2000. I think it's 2017 or 18, maybe 18.
how old was he?
He was 80, more or less. He was 16 years older than my mother. So he was born 1937. My mom, I'm so bad with years, but my mom was born, well, 16 years later. And he was an airplane pilot in the military first, and then with Alitalia, which is the Italian flag flying company. And he was my more or less absolute hero when I was a child. I'd be really wanting to be like him. I'm in New Zealand actually because when I was 8 years old, he told me he had traveled the whole world with his job, but he hadn't been to New Zealand. So I decided when I was 8 that I was going to come. Then COVID happened. And so New Zealand kidnapped me.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's like, he completely shaped me. And it was very important to him because I asked him about that, to have a son as a first son. So I think he loved me passionately, but he couldn't really accept me as a woman. He really struggled with that, both because you wouldn't be free to, especially I need love with hugs and physical touch, which he couldn't really deal with because of his culture and his education and the idea he had of the role of a father. And then he really wanted me to be a side. I would have been perfect if I was a male, because he loved my intelligence, he loved my being adventurous and stuff, but he just needed the son to be happy. Then I can relate. I mean, when you say that he was completely devoted to my mother, because when she got sick, she became the absolute priority. So he would ask us, and when we were 12 and 10, to serve the same way he did to my mother's disease. And so that made, and he actually died. He stood at her side, even though from my perspective, they would like slowly kill each other. They were fighting all the time and making each other miserable. But he stood by her side and even fighting the others away. He wouldn't trust anybody to be with her. And until she died, and then maybe a couple of years after she died, he died as well.
How was your relationship when he died to him?
So I can relate also with this being put in the role of the mother, of the wife, because my mother basically wasn't there anymore. So for some time, when I was still around before I started traveling and left the place, you'd call on me to fix his problems with my brother, his son. And I would be like constantly trying to help him and being there to discuss topics with him. We would understand each other a lot. He loved reading and philosophy and poetry and art. And with him, I felt I really had a connection under that point of view. But then he really destroyed the relationship. The relationship between me and my brother were destroyed because I was put in a position that wasn't mine, to have an authority.
You were the younger?
I'm older. I'm the
older.
firstborn. But my brother would never accept me. Also, my father taught him not to respect women. So I wouldn't be recognized as one who could tell him what to do. and I think, and then, but then I stopped at some point through psychology therapy and stuff. When you call on me for anything, you'd call on me whenever my brother wouldn't be helping him, he'd call on me and put me in the middle, and I started saying that I couldn't, and that saved me. And also I started asking for money, which were possibly the only way you could show love. You don't want to give money, but when he gave money, that was his way to show he loved you. So when I asked for money, I finally found a way to, I don't know, to feel loved by him.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Francesca, for sharing. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Vilna, might you introduce your father to us?
Is that me or Virna? Virna or Vilna?
Vilna. Actually, Vilna, I have you as Christian now, so you are now Christian. But you can change the name anytime. You just go and change the name if you want to. Okay, Vilna.
Here's my father with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my father, I guess he didn't have a really great relationship with his father, but as an adult was kind of like very respectful with him. Always checking that they were okay. Very poor family. My father, really hard worker and always helping them, looking after them as they were old until the last minute. My dad became very quiet, more of a, the masculine and feminine. My father adopted the feminine and my mother the masculine. Very hard worker and dominant, my mother. So he became kind of quiet. It's kind of a quality that I didn't like very much, because in my mind was that the father is supposed to be the one that says this goes like this or that, or at least half and half. But he became kind of quiet. Oh, your mother's the one that knows. My father, I can remember clearly that he beat me twice. And I always tell him, you did this to me, and he doesn't remember. He laughs. But there is no resentment towards him. My resentment is mainly to my mother, which I'm working on. And yeah, my father did as well little things like that, like buying gifts, which was the expression that I thought that could be something that would show that he loved me. However, my mother said, your father was very in a mood of not smiling or having a good mood. You were the one who made him smile. There was a point when I was after my 20s, he became very huggy, and I didn't like it. I know that there was a moment when he came over to the house and he kissed my lips, and I didn't like it. It was kind of like a way of keeping away from him, and might not be probably something bad that he intended to do. I asked my sisters, did he ever kiss your lips? And they were like, yes. He, we sometimes give kiss, like, but for me it was something kind of new. Choking, no, didn't like it, never did it again. Until I came to New Zealand, I saw parents and kids kissing each other. My mother
and strangers.
Yeah, my mother did a couple of times with a lipstick. If she was going out, I was like, oh, I want to go, mommy. I was always wanted to go with her to places, and she was like, no, you stay in the house, take a kiss, and she will put lipstick with a kiss. Yeah, so he never had opinion or anything towards anything. He always wanted to have information, just absorbing, and I dislike
Is
that.
he still alive?
Yes, he is. They both are still alive. Yeah.
How is your relationship now?
We don't talk much because I dislike that I always have to tell him everything. He doesn't have much to share. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know that. You know, he's always tell me about how is this or that or talk. Just
Alright.
want to be
Right.
listening.
Thank you, Verna. Thank you for sharing. Chica, would you like to introduce your father?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have a photo or anything, but my father. So I didn't know my mother, and I didn't know my father less because he was never in our life. I had to literally had to go to the office to see him. So
Mhm.
I really didn't know him maybe even longer. Maybe when I was an adult, I
Oh, yeah.
started to get know him.
Mm.
But he's someone he can control his emotions very well. That's why I think he's very successful in the business. He's a very, very successful businessman, and he's very kind, calm, and he's got good heart. But he's because he didn't deal with the kids, he doesn't know how to express his emotions to us. Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, he's very unique type
Yeah,
of father. Yeah.
very good. Thank
Now
you.
I am a mother. No, it was very, yeah. But we are close. I'm
Yeah.
the closest out of 4 children. He
Ah,
would
yeah.
share with me the deepest
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
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 Mhm. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Chica. Something that comes to my mind that is also important when we talk about how kind of our relationships are predestined in some way, also to our parents, is if we are not so close to our parents, if they are a bit distant and not to our liking so much, that gives us a great freedom to walk away and do our own thing. If we have lovely parents that never do anything wrong, we would have a very bad conscience to probably never have the urge to do anything and go anywhere. Um, and so yeah, so everything has a really good side to it. Vilma, would you like to share, introduce your father to us? No, not now. Still not muted. Still muted. Somewhere is a mic, the symbol of a mic somewhere, and you just press that. Still, yeah, here we go.
Yes. Sorry, I was pressing the button and it was not appearing the unmute. Sorry.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't. I entered a little late. I hope I didn't lost Gabriela talking or someone.
You will see it on the recording.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, my son was really upset. Okay, so my father, it's him. Here we're together. Now that he came for the born of of our daughter,
Yeah.
of my daughter. And well, he's a very kind man, very friendly, very emotional. He's very romantic. Um, my relationship with him, well, he was very absent. He's a doctor, a gynecologist, and he was working always so much. He had his own clinic and had to be away for so like most of the time he was not home. But whenever he was there, like I have sweet memories. Just that he was very absent. And after I grew up, like the relationship, it's very good. But at the same time, he's very close to himself in a way. And whenever he calls me, he's like, "Hello, so yes, I'm here. I'm doing this and that." And then he will ask, "How are you?" And I say, "Fine." And before I have the time to say something more, he closes the phone. Like he cannot speak a lot, so he will never ask me more things about me. But only knowing that I'm good, it's enough for him. He tells me I love you, and that's it. So, but yeah,
Nothing more to say.
sorry, what?
Nothing more to say.
Yes, you're good. I'm good. Everything is good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank
Yes.
you, everybody, for sharing and introducing your father to us. So the father has a very unique position when we're talking about the orders of love, the second order of love, who come first. So the father in Bert Hellinger's order of love comes first before the mother. It's a bit of an old school thinking, because what he says is the father is securing the system. And everybody who's securing the system, the family system, and the nuclear family in this case, comes first. This is obviously not what we are experiencing now. We're having a lot of single mothers who are securing the the providing and securing the system for the children, and also the bond to the father is not as strong as to the mother, because there is not a body share and not a birth process and everything else. So I prefer to take the mother first and then the father. However, it is correct that the father is always standing on the right side. So this is not only because he comes first and he secures the family, it is an energetic thing. Because, and we learned that actually in module 4, because the right side is the male side and the left side is the female side. And so it's appropriate that the father, who is the male, is on the right side of the mother, right? So it just, if you remember that way, it's probably better to remember that way. There is a saying also for the father. Remember, for the mother, it was the mother's success has mother's face. Now we have addiction has father's face. That is a finding, again, in phenomenologically founded finding of Bert Hellinger, that when somebody is dealing with addictions, I mean, I'm talking about severe addictions, then it is most likely is the relationship to the father that is distorted.
Mm.
So that is just an information. So it's, again, it's nothing that we count on. We always want to see it and experience it in a family constellation, but it is definitely something that should be in the back of your mind when you're working with a client who has addiction, right? That most likely the father son or father-daughter relationship has to be looked at. Father and son has some specific dynamics, and father and daughter. Father and son, that's most of their high expectations. Has been in former generations, maybe still now. High expectations, which by now you know is not good and is hindering the flow of love a lot. So this is why father and son relationships can be very problematic because of the expectations. However, father and daughter is normally better, and we have heard that here a lot, that I think everybody says more or less the relationship to the father of you was better than to the mother. That is because there are less expectations normally, right? So less expectations from the father to the daughter, and also from the daughter to the father, allowing for more love to flow, because expectations are only the blockage for the love to flow. That's all. Yep. So the expectations could be between father to son, to provide, to be strong, to be capable to take over the business, to have a family on their own and have another son, and pass down the name of the family and the genes, and all these expectations towards the son. And towards the daughter, it would be less. There might be expectations to have a family and have children, but they are less strong and less demanding. The process of letting go between father and children is normally not so problematic, because the bond was not so strong to start with, right? So this is why we have this interrupted movement to the mother, which is the other side of the letting go, which is a movement towards the father, is not very strong, and it might not come even up in a family constellation. It can, however, I'm not saying there is not such a thing, and I have seen it a few times, that actually there was from the child to the father an interrupted movement, which we will cover in module 4, but it is not very often, and it's probably something that does not need to be looked at immediately when it's not strong indications in the family constellation that is actually something that you need to be focus on. So what is father's love? What is children's love? We do our exercise with the father now. I'm just a bit weary of the time because we have quite a bit more coming up. So we will just make it a little bit briefer. But nevertheless, the position of the father is as important as of the mother. And I don't want to continue with you in the course without giving this relationship the space to come through. So again, please sit upright with an unsupported spine and put everything away, notebook, pen, whatever you don't need at the moment for this guided meditation. And then allow yourself with a couple of deep breaths into the belly to come into a relaxed state where the shoulders are relaxing, the jaw and the eyelids. Keep your spine upright. And breathe deep into your belly with an inhale through the nostrils. And exhale also through the nostrils, long and controlled. Draw the belly in until there is no air left. And then naturally allow your belly to expand, the diaphragm to sink, and allow the air come through. And then exhale. Continue to do that a few times. And while you're inhaling, you're sinking deeper into your inner space of peace and tranquility, your happy space, where there's no worries, no thoughts even about tomorrow or yesterday, where you're at peace in the now. There's no expectation, nothing to do really, just beingness in a happy space. And in this space, you see yourself in whatever age comes up, sitting or standing. And then you see your father approaching. And also he has any age, from child to, grandfather age. Whatever comes up, the first glimpse you have of your father is what you take. Don't try to change it. And you go closer, so you can stand like an arm length away from him. And if he's smaller than you, you make yourself small, so you can look up to him in his eye. And you look in his eyes, and he looks in your eyes. Deep in the eye. And you say to your dad in your mother tongue or your father tongue, please. And he's looking in your eyes, and he says to you, yes. Then you put your left hand on your heart and reach out with your right palm. And he also puts his left hand on his heart and reaches out to you, his right palm. And your palms meeting. And you feel the warmth and the pulse of his heartbeat. And he feels yours. And you let the love flow from heart to heart. Unobstructed receiving and giving, exchange. From soul to soul. There's no history between you. It's as if you meet for the first time. And then you put your right hand on top of your left towards your heart. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then you take a step backwards and say to your Father, thank you. And then you take another step backwards, or maybe two, and say to your Father, thank you. Then you step a few more steps backward. To your Father, it becomes quite small. And you say, for the third time, thank you. Then you turn around and you walk your own way until you come back into your room where you are at present sitting. Take a couple of deep breaths. And in your own time, you can open your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths with open mouth, exhale. Relax the shoulders. Very good. So if there's something come up which you feel pressed to share, just raise your hands. Otherwise, we would move on. Okay. So we are going to the children. So after mother and father have united, it could be for a fling, it could be even a rape, it could be just a moment. Or if you know the Besenkammer story of Boris Becker, it could be happen in a rumpus room. A child is born 9 months later. And now we have a nuclear family, even if they don't, in life, don't form that. But most families, they have children because they want children. And they have the intent to form a family system, a family. So what is the order here? Now, the order of birth comes first. Whoever was conceived first and counts towards the family system. Remember part 1. We are only working with the people who are part of the family system. And then we're looking at who comes first. So that would be either the firstborn or the first conceived if it was an abortion or a miscarriage or lost twin. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And it is very, very often in the family constellations, you're constellating, especially when you start to work with somebody, when that's the first constellation or the second or the third. So you put up the nuclear family, which is father, mother, and the client. And then the next step would be the siblings. So like the client says, okay, I have a sister and I have a brother. You ask who was firstborn, and then you put them in the order. And then the representatives of the children, they don't feel well in their spot. They feel either very openly that somebody's missing, or they say, oh, I feel cold on my right or my left shoulder, or I feel like I need distance from my sibling. And they will tell you, the representatives, they feel that very, very precisely. And with trained eyes of a family system, and with a family's constellator facilitator, and with the knowledge of the orders of love, which is your bread and butter, you need another representative and put another representative there, and you will see a relief in the children. They feel better. They don't feel cold anymore. They even say, oh, it's not here, it's there. So this new representative needs to be on my left shoulder, not on my right. And maybe there's another one. So it's very obvious the family system, the morphogenetic field reveals this information very clearly. This is never in doubt. And all of a sudden, instead of having brother and sister, there are 2 siblings of your client, there are 5. You know, that happens very often. And you stop there where everybody feels in the right order, where everybody says, yeah, that feels right. And they will tell you. They will tell you. And then maybe your client does not know anything about it, because obviously the parents are not talking about any miscarriages or any abortion, or they maybe have given a child away to the been adopted or whatnot, and never talked about it. But in a family constellation, you see them all. And now the order is established that every one of the children is acknowledging their right place in the family. So whoever was the first one, the first conceived one, has to say, I'm the first one. And then whoever is the second one has to say, and I'm the second one. And so forth. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, you know? And you see that in the faces of the representatives, there is such a relief when everybody can acknowledge their rightful place in the family system, which is not what the parents tell the 2 or 3 children they are talking about, you know, because they don't know. It's nothing malicious about it. They don't know how important that is. And it's not even important to be in the open as opposed to, you know, making it a dinner table conversation. That's not what I meant. It's energetically, right? It's about the soul movement. The souls need to be acknowledged. And something will lighten for the client. Some burden will lift, and one more of the onion layer has been peeled off, and he's experiencing more freedom and happiness in his life. That's how family constellation goes. And the children, the siblings in the right order, play a big role in that. So that is the bread and butter work of family constellation. Here we talk about the siblings. Half siblings, same. Remember, half siblings belong to the family system, so they come in as well. Yeah, in the order of birth. Whoever comes first, or conception, whoever comes first is the one who has the rightful place before the others. We talked about that miscarriages and abortion, same situation. There is no difference. Often in a family constellation, you see an aborted or a miscarried child sitting rather than standing, or even laying down. That's very often. Then that's definitely a hint that this child hasn't been born, which doesn't matter. It still has to acknowledge and be acknowledged in the rightful place. Adoption, so we talked about that. So when we are looking at the family system of a child who is adopted, we are looking at the Ursprungs family, the blood-related family, not the adoption family. Adopting parents come in as maybe advantage givers or somehow bound by destiny, but not through bloodline, obviously. And they don't play a role when we are looking at the family system and the orders of the right orders of the family members. Yeah. So always remember, don't get sidetracked when you have that. On the other hand, we talked about that already. When a child is giving away and be adopted by somebody else, they in the family constellation has to come back and find its rightful place. Because if it would be missing, the order wouldn't be established, and relief from suffering is not happening. Special needs and severe diseased children obviously are definitely also in the order of love in their rightful place when they're acknowledged in birth order. But there's something particular about it because they come with a specific karma, with a specific how can I put that? A task, I would say. Yeah, they come here with a specific task, something more that's not in the ordinary. They have a specific either working on their karma or a specific task to fulfill. So who just left us? Ah, Francesca, are you back? Okay. So often, or not often, but sometimes families don't talk about that, especially in former generations. I think we touched on that yesterday. So if you are consolidating and you are putting up the siblings of a former generation, for example, to find the right order there, then this is also to be observed, because probably nobody talks about it. And they will also they will tell you it's not important in this specific orders if they are disabled or not. It could be, so just be aware of that. So the next one, grandparents. Of course, they come before the parents, but in a family constellation, when we're looking at the nuclear family, then we are looking first at mother, father, children, and then at the grandparents. And yes, the grandparents, they do play a big role in family constellations. So why is that? Because entanglements often skip one generation, pretty much every time. It's very unlikely that a child is entangled with one of the parents. However, it's very likely that the child is entangled with one of the grandparents. Or it is very likely that the father or the mother is entangled with the great-grandparent, with one of the great-grandparents. So this is why you always place, when you go further than the nuclear family, when that is solved, whatever that is, probably in the next constellation or in the same constellation, you place representatives for the grandparents and see what's going on there. Grandparents are showing up as part of a family constellation regularly because of that. Even if they die before, of course, they don't need to be alive. We never bother about who's alive or not, because we're looking at the souls of the family member, not their physical bodies. And then there are the ancestors before the grandparents. So how is the right order of the ancestors? Now, obviously, they are the very first ones, before the grandparents, before the parents, before yourself and the siblings. So they coming first. But they're not necessarily playing a big role in a family constellation. You don't know until you try it. And they don't have a particular order as well. Because when you remember from yesterday, the animation with all the people in the family system, the pink people, the blue people, and everybody else, you see how, like, if you look at the ancestor, how many people are in direct bloodline in the ancestors already. So to go through there and find an order would be like hours and hours of family constellation. And the family soul is not bothering with that. So when there's an entanglement with an ancestor, the one person is an ancestor shows up. And you do not need to inquire which generation that is. You don't even need to inquire often. Sometimes you do, not always, if it's from the mother or the father's line. The ancestor shows up for a good reason, because there's an entanglement. And you just deal with that. You do not, get astray finding the specific order there. So what is the right place of the ancestor? Of course, he's the first one, right? So he has to be honored and respected for that. That he's the first one. What you do is normally with you receive blessings from your ancestor. So you can ask for blessings, or the ancestor and the representative of an ancestor is giving blessings naturally. So that's the right order and the right place for the ancestor and for yourself or your client in this order. We are now talking briefly about caring for elderly parents, because that's a topic that is often leading to a distortion of the second order of love, who comes first, because obviously the parents come before the children. And as you know, the stream doesn't flow back to the source, only to the sea. So also the love and care and everything goes from parents, grandparents to parents, parents to children. So what happens now when the parents become needy? Yeah, is now the child becoming the parent of the parents and the parents becoming children, or what's going on there? And this needs to be looked at, and it's often distorted because the orders is not obeyed, and that's causing further suffering. So we look at this now briefly. The rule is the child cares for parent only when there is no other way, because the parents are bound by destiny and should look after each other. And we have just heard that in some of your parents, my parents and Gabriel's parents, I think it was, and others have said that they clearly had a agreement to look after each other, that they were donating their life towards the other. And that's happening. That's often the reason why they go in a relationship and don't leave it. And that's the right place. So the right place is that the parents look after each other. Now the children come in and look after a parent or both parents if there's no other way. Yeah. When the child comes in and looks after the parent, it has to come in as an adult, not as a child. Often, this is due to the conditioning when we talked about the personal conscience. Often in our relationship to our parents, if it's unresolved, if we're not working with family constellation or anything, as soon as this, I say a random person, yeah, John Doe or whatever, meets his or her parents, they become a 7-year-old. If they have no spiritual development, and if they haven't therapy, if they haven't worked, especially with family constellation, on the relationship, it's just where they are stuck. Now, if you think about it, a 7-year-old cannot look after somebody else, right? That's impossible. So this is when things are really going wrong, and there's only tension, and nobody is helped really with. Yeah. So you can only go back to your children when you have grown up, to your parents when you have grown up, and you can serve them as an adult. Yeah. So you don't see yourself, you don't fall into this conditioning of a 7-year-old as soon as you see your parents. So in this case, when the child has been grown up into an adult and looking after the parents as adults, not as children, so respecting the parents still as adults who came first, yeah, the child has to decide what is right for the parents, not what they want or what they expect, because now the decision is made from an adult perspective. So often the right decision is that third persons are helping or looking after the parents, that you support with money, or you look for an appropriate elderly home. That doesn't mean that you don't visit parents or don't, it just means that the day-to-day care of elderly people has been better in the hands of others, and that is okay. Because why is this such a problem? Because the conscience often tells us that that's not okay. But the orders of love are telling us that's totally okay if it's coming from an adult perspective to care for the parents appropriately, right? Remember, I can't express it often enough, the stream doesn't flow back to the source. You cannot turn it around and become parents to your parents. It's just not possible, right? So you have to find another way to deal with this situation if the parents can't help themselves. Patchwork families. So what is patchwork? Do you all know the term patchwork family? Yeah, is that kind of familiar? No? So patchwork families is when there is a father and a mother, and they separate and they have children, and then the father meets somebody else and the mother meets somebody else, and all of a sudden they are half siblings, and then they're even step siblings, and all of a sudden you have a family that are not living together. That's not what we're talking about, but the family system where there are lots of half siblings or step siblings. And stepmothers and stepfathers and former partners and current partners involved. And that's what, the patchwork family, patches of family systems coming together, forming a new kind of match, which we have to go through when we do family constellation, and finding the right order there, which can be challenging, especially because the client will only talk about that what he or she has experienced, not about what is the family dynamic. So the client cannot decipher who belongs to the family system and who not. And we'll mix that up. So we'll talk about persons that are close to his heart that are not belonging to the family system. And remember, we are not working with them. We are not working with people who not belong. So we can only find the order in the people, the members of the family who belong. That's the rule, you know. So patchwork families, how we tackle that? First of all, we find out who belongs. That are the children and the stepchildren. That's it. No, sorry, the half children, not the stepchildren. So if there's no blood relationship, the children don't count in a family system, in a family constellation. The partner, the new partner, does count, or the former partner does count, and it has to be shown in the family constellation if they need to be representative, if they need to be represented, if there is a dynamic where they, and that will come up. You can test it. But we talk about the practical aspects anyhow later on, but you can test it. You can clearly see that in the family constellation if that is this position needed to be represented or not. But remember, former partners do count to the family system, but not their children, which are then the stepchildren. Important information, patchwork families, new partners come before the previous ones, especially when a child is born. So the new family is due to the second order of love comes first because they are creating a new family system. However, the children from the first marriage and the children from the second marriage have to be placed in the order of their birth or conception. So that doesn't change. If there are new children who are born later, they don't come first. They have their place in the line of children and siblings whenever they've been born or conceived. What you see in family constellations is that the bond to the first partner is greater than to the next. So the bond to the partner always lessens. The first one is the strongest, and the second is the lesser one, and so on. Even if the love that they feel is not reflecting it. Often the love that they feel to the new partner is greater, than to the first partner, but the bond is greater. So if the bond is causing problems, there has to be an active letting go process between partners, ex-partners, similar to the letting go process of father or mother. Yeah. Just because somebody is leaving amicably the relationship and has a new relationship doesn't make the bond less or anything. The bond will be strong. Often it is to break this bond is coming with a feeling of guilt that it has to do with the personal conscience, right? Because conditioning. I don't know. Somebody said, was it not you, Werner, that you said your mother got angry when you divorced or something? You lost the connection to your mother when she disagreed.
She didn't like it, but I still had her support. She was like,
but she
no,
didn't like
do
it.
that. Yeah.
So this
she wasn't angry, but that was
so
not advisable. Sorry.
This is typically the case that there is a tradition, a moral, a conditioning, however you call it, right? That you stick to your partner. And when you want to leave the partner and you are conditioned into that can feel can come with the feeling of guilt. So when you see that in a family constellation, then you know the personal conscience or the collective conscience is present, creating this feeling. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. Freedom lies beyond these emotions. Right? They are not a good guide because they are conditioned behavior. Okay, the order in families. This is what I wanted to do. I want to demonstrate that on the board before we all we go our own ways for today. So let me just how do I do that? Can I Yeah, no, I know how to do that. Wait. So I put on the camera here. We are still sharing, and here's the board. Okay, can you see that? I think the sharing works well after the update. So that's a good news. Right. So here's our representatives. If you haven't seen the figurines yet, this is how I work in one-on-one sessions normally, or in this training when I want to demonstrate something. Sometimes you can also use this in virtual workshops. It just takes a bit longer. So it's not my preferred method. And now we are just looking about just, so you can memorize it better, and you have seen it, about the right order in family. So we have father and mother. Let's take, this is the mother. And here's the father. Remember, the father is to the right side. Yeah. Right is male, left is female. And then we have a child. Let's take a child here. Here. Right. So there are several situations. In family constellation, mother and father can look like this, facing each other. Obviously, that happens, no? That they are placed like this, which is okay. That just means that they have a dynamic which they need to work on. The right position is next to each other. So if they are put together next to each other, even the father to the right of the mother, then the dynamic is the orders is obeyed. No dynamic. Yeah. And then comes a child, which will probably take a smaller one. Let's take the wee little one. So the child is in front of the parents. So if the child would be here next to a parent, that's already a hint towards the dynamic. That the child is not in the right place. It's my representing the father or the mother, and a relationship even with one of the parents, which, like what Gabrielle said before, she had the feeling. Was it Gabrielle? The feeling that she was, being a partner to her father rather than his daughter. So this is what you see in family constellation when this comes up. Yeah. So then there needs to be worked at. The right situation is the child in front of the parents and looking at the parents like this. Now, when you place siblings and your whole line, then all the siblings would place a few there, would stand in front of the parents. And remember, they can be dead or alive. Some can lie down, right? And that would be much more siblings there than the client talks about, because you will find all the siblings that hasn't been accounted for when you do the constellation. That's the right order. Now we have the next one, which would be the grandparents. So let's take the grandparents here. These are the grandparents. Yeah. Where do you think the grandparents are going? If it would be the right order.
Behind the parents?
Behind, yes. So that would be exactly. They would be behind, and at best also left male, right female. They would be behind the one which the line. Yeah. So in this case, it would be the mother's line, the grandparents. And then they would stand like this. And if they stand like this, and everybody, we are already in a constellation because the mother looks at this. Can you see that? I always want to demonstrate something, but in fact, it's always a constellation. You can't help it. But we're not going there. I see Francesca understand. So we are sticking with the orders of love. The second order of love, the right position. Now I should have put the parents somewhere else because I'm running out of space. But now we have the next one would be the ancestors. And remember, the ancestors, we are not putting like 20 figures now. We can. It might be appropriate in a constellation, but most often not. There would be one missing, and that could be an ancestor. So we choose one. Somewhere. Let's take the red figurine, and they would be somewhere on the board, wherever, right? And I have the feeling that this is already entangled with him. No. So, but we are not doing constellation here when we don't even know for whom we are constellating here. So if the ancestor would be, now I need more space, behind here somewhere with a distance, you know, he would be able to pass on the love and the blessing. He cannot pass it on from here. Oh, now he's out of the picture, right? Because remember, we are always thinking of the stream coming from the source, flowing down towards the sea. And obviously, it starts with the ancestor here, and that. So this is where dynamic is happening. This is where all the juice is in a family constellation where you work with. If the entanglement has been resolved, and it's not that we are forcing now the ancestor to stand here and we think this is now resolved. It's not, obviously. This is playing with figurines. It's not a family constellation. But if we apply all the methods that you learn over the course of the training, then this ancestor will move here, right? Happily. And will support, I just put him here, and will support, that also big, and will support now the family system with his love and his blessings. Yeah. Okay. Now, going further, when in this constellation, there's actually also the possibility that these children, and it's very likely that these are adult, because the client who comes to you is adult. And let's assume the orange figurine is an adult person you're working with, right? So the right order, and has children. So the right order would be that this person stands in front of the parents and looks at their children, which could be, let's take them again here. Probably one, yeah? So you're continuing with the orders forward as well. So that physically the stream of love can flow from the ancestors through the whole ancestral line, through the grandparents, through the mother and father, into your client, and from here to his child. And that is the demonstration. This is not how you conduct a family constellation. Just be 100% clear about that. Yeah. You're not moving the figurines around to just put them in the order and say now it's done. Yeah, it has no healing effect. It's just child's play. Okay, so any questions why we are here? That's all good? All understood? Great. Some visuals often makes it a lot easier to memorize things. So I hope that was the case. So we placed the right order in 3 generations on the board, and more actually. We went through more. And we did that. We assumed the disorder in a constellation, which we did when we put the ancestor somewhere else, for example, or missing children not there or something like this. And then you find with the tools that you get, and which are basically also the words and the gestures that you learn, the representatives start to move. That's the magic. They start to move. And they start to move in the right order. That's magical. They naturally want to go there. And that is when you see that a dynamic has been cleared. And that's all you want to see. Okay? Sometimes it is advisable to take a representative, either a figurine or a person, and ask him to go in a specific place and to feel how that feels. This is, however, kind of you are experimenting and finding out what dynamic you have and what to, it is not the work. It is you as a facilitator narrowing possibilities down, right? So you would ask them to go there, how do you feel there? How do you feel there? And they would either say better or worse or something like that. Yeah. And then you know something, but you place him back where he came from. Because this was just for you to understand a bit more about the dynamic. Okay, now we have 10 minutes left and we want to talk about the order and organization. So organizations are anything that is not the family, a workplace situation, and there's another misspelling. Oh God, anyhow, I will clear that out. What is the order there? It's a little bit different, although you have heard me saying yesterday that when you are placing, when you're facilitating a constellation with organizations, that in the end you always see the family system, and you do. But still, when you start to work with an organization, you have to see where the right order is there. So the order is function, time spent, education, and responsibility. These are the 4 attributes which every employee or whoever is part of the organization falls under. And this all gives you a hint where the right order is. So what is the right order here? The founder comes first. This is where it all starts in the organization. That's the founder. Or if it's not one founder, you have shareholders. And they come first. It's like the ancestors. This is where it starts. Doesn't matter if they're alive or not alive, doesn't matter. You may work, you may have a family business that you work with in 5 generations. So the founders were in 1850. Now, obviously, they are not alive, but they still come first. That's who comes first, right? So you have to definitely find a representative for him. And then, and that is probably a surprise, but the administration comes before the production, because the administration is actually securing the organization. Yeah. So if you look at an organization, you ask then, so, okay, a representative for the administration, and then a representative for the production, if it's something to produce or as a service or whatever they are providing. The administration is placed to the right side of the CEO or director or whoever is running the show. Yeah, because they are like the father securing the system. Or like, not the father, the male energy. Let's call it the male energy. Yeah. So the administration would be on the right of the CEO and the production on the left. Yeah. The production being the productive part of the company, like the mother is producing children. Or milk, for that matter, for the children. After the administration, the production, with the founders, like the ancestors in the back, to supporting the organization, comes the people who are doing actually the work, which is actually the production or the service, the doctors, the researchers, to the left side of the CEO. Whatever organization you are looking at. Then, normally you have an organization, there's not only one person in the administration and one person working. So there is a group, like administration is 5 people. And then if you look at the hospital, there's probably 5 people in the administration and probably 20 doctors and 30 nurses working. So within the group, there's another order. So in the group, let's say the group of doctors, right? You have to find out who comes first there as well. So who comes first in the group is time spent. Again, birth order, so to speak. Who was first there? So you have, like, say 20 doctors and one is the oldest, who was there the longest. Not the oldest, who was there the longest? He comes first, or she comes first. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next. So what is the destruction of the order is obviously if somebody comes later, but is more qualified. And we think, okay, more qualification comes first, right? But that's not the order. It's still time spent. So the one who's more qualified but comes later in an organization has to take a place in a family constellation, the place after the one who was there before. Yeah. And respect the ones who were there first, even if the qualification is not higher or a lot lesser. I can demonstrate it on the board, but we are running out of time, and I think we don't need that. I mean, that's understood probably. It's not, no, it's not too complicated. We will work with that anyhow. It will all come up. We are spending a lot of time together in the next year, or in this year actually. And I want to spend the last few minutes talking about the order of helping, because this is also the second order of love. Is if you are a helper, somebody is a helper, he is part of the family system, remember? And now we need to know where's the right place for this helper. So what is the right, so this is where I want to make a drawing, and I will bring up the whiteboard. And we are making it quick. So we have here is me, yeah, me. And then we have the parents. And then we have the grandparents. And then we have the ancestors, remember? That's our little family system. Okay, and we are not doing now the other exemptions. Now, when you look at this is generations here, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 to 7. Yeah, okay. Where do you think the helper, which is the family constellation facilitator in our case, because we do the work, where does he come in, he or she? Where's the right order? Where does he place himself? Because he's part of the family system temporarily as a helper. Just throw your ideas out there. What do you think? I make another color. Red. Anybody?
In front of them?
In front, meaning?
Like
we have 2 dimension here. Just help me a little bit. Where would you put it?
on, like here.
Like
No,
here,
here.
or there, or there, or there, or there, or there.
The bottom of the screen at the center, in front, like at the, is that in front of the
Here?
No, in
No.
bottom though, lower, in front of the person.
Here. Yeah. Okay, very good. So that's a good start, because we are looking at generations and who comes first, and this generation 7 is first, then 6, and so forth, and 1 is the last one, right? Second order of love. So now if the helper is here, he's later than the last one, and that's correct. Yeah, because obviously the helper came to the family system last. So the right order of the helper is indeed the last one. And it's actually the right place of the helper. So remember, the stream of love goes always down, right? Like here, that's from the top down to the seed. No. So that's the order, and the helper is here to support. And what is the right attitude for the helper when it's here? Like, does he have something to give? That's the question here. Does the helper have something to give? Cannot.
No.
Because if he has something to give, he needs to be here, because, you know, something needs to go down.
I
So he
think
has nothing to
a
give.
helper should be on the top where the ancestors are, and then no more until where Francesca put one. So it will come through the generation, like the river,
So if it would be on top, that would mean the helper is respected as an elderly. But the helper is not part of the family system until the client wants him. So the helper comes much later. He comes after everybody else. And remember the second order of love, it is about time. You know? Who comes first? When? Why? Because of the order of love, right? So now we have this little dot established there as the right place of the helper in a timeline, if you will, right? Now we want to find out what is the right attitude of the helper, because he cannot give. He or she cannot give because the stream flows only in one direction, right? So what is the helper actually doing if they are not giving anything? Are they taking? No.
They're just guides, no?
I give it away because we're running out of time for today. The one who comes last, who is last, is serving. That's the right order. The helper is serving. It's a servant. Yeah. And it has to have the attitude as a servant. And who is the helper serving?
The client, the system.
The system. That's different. Not the client. So the correct way is to move the helper over here and have him here, right? So he has the whole system to look at. He's looking at the whole system. He's serving the whole system. And just think about a servant in former days, you know? He's providing his skills, you know? And he doesn't care if they take like a servant at dinner period. It's providing. They don't care if somebody is rejecting the food or taking it or wants more. It's just serving whatever is required. Yeah. And that's the right attitude of the family constellation facilitator. Otherwise, he or she wouldn't be able to help. And this is forced by the orders of love, by the second order of love. And we have a whole time to spend about the art of helping, which is, let me just see where we have that. In module 3, part 1. That is where we're talking about the orders of helping in great depth, because it's super important. Otherwise, you know, you won't be able to help really. Okay, so just to wrap up everything for today, is the second order of love is finds out where the family members who belong due to the first order of love to the family system have their rightful place in the family system. That's all. Yeah, that's what we were concerned about today. And I hope you have that is sinking in. You don't need to memorize it now. We're not making a test or anything, but that you have that you felt it, and then you can recap that later on when I give you the recordings and work with it later on. Okay. Prepare for part 3. What do I have there? Of course, please bring a photo of your partner for tomorrow. So either a photo of your current partner or your ex-partner.
So partner is somebody with whom
romantic
you
relationship.
Like a relationship.
Yeah. Romantic relationship.
Kind, even.
Sorry?
I mean, even short.
The one that is the closest to you. The one that is the closest to you. If you have a current partner, definitely the current partner. If you don't have a current partner, an ex-partner.
Yeah, but an ex-partner.
If you have several ex-partners, choose the one that you think about first. That comes up to your mind.
A partner is somebody you're living with. Partner. You live together.
No, you don't need to live together.
Can be 2 months long.
Sorry, Maya. I cannot leave.
Yeah, we're all leaving now. What are you saying?
I cannot. The cows are escaping. I need to put the cows back into the paddock. I can leave now.
Okay,
And
so-
I'll come back tomorrow. Okay.
So we all see you
Thank you.
tomorrow at the set time. And just, Francesca, find a picture of a partner you want to look at.
So are we looking anything in particular or what's happening with this? It's not like introducing it like the parents.
Yeah, we see.
Because it's like I've had like 2 months. My last relationship wasn't a partnership. It was just we hang out together for 2 months.
If you don't consider it a partnership, then that's not the one.
Okay.
Yeah. I cannot judge that, but you have to make the call, right? Whatever
yeah,
you consider a partnership.
One of the questions I kept to myself yesterday, because this guy came out constellation, but he wasn't my partner.
No, it's probably not the right one then. Probably we work with a partner that you really
Okay.
had a partnership with. That's probably the best way to put it. Okay, so
Okay.
I wish you a lovely evening or morning or day, wherever you are. And I see you in 21 hours again. Right? Awesome.
Okay.
See
Bye.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.